On the northern edge of South America, tucked between Guyana, French Guiana, Brazil, and the Atlantic Ocean, sits one of the continent's most unusual countries, Suriname. It is the smallest nation in South America by both land area and population, yet its story is far bigger than its size suggests. Suriname is officially a South American country, but it is also closely tied to the Caribbean and the West Indies through culture, history, and regional politics. Its capital, Paramaribo, holds roughly half the country's population, while most of the national territory remains covered by dense tropical rainforest. This contrast is central to understanding Suriname, a small coastal society facing the Atlantic, backed by one of the most forested interiors on Earth. Suriname lies just north of the equator, a location that helps explain its climate, landscape, and population pattern. More than 90% of the country is covered by rainforest, giving Suriname the second highest proportion of forest cover in the world. That means the country is not defined by sprawling cities or vast farmland, but by rivers, forests, and ecosystems that remain relatively intact compared with many parts of the globe. Most people live along the northern coastal strip, especially around Paramaribo, because the interior is difficult to access and has historically been less urbanized. This makes Suriname one of the least densely populated countries on Earth, with a large territory but a relatively small population concentrated near the sea. Long before European powers arrived, the region now known as Suriname was inhabited by indigenous peoples, including the Lokono, Kalina, and Wayana. Their presence reaches back thousands of years, with communities living along rivers, forests, and coastal zones. These societies developed deep knowledge of the land, its waterways, and its resources. When Europeans began arriving in the 16th century, they entered a region that was already populated and culturally complex. The early colonial period was marked by competition among European powers, but by the late 17th century the Dutch had gained control over much of the territory that forms modern Suriname. This shift would transform the region's economy, demographics, language, and social structure for centuries. Under Dutch rule, Suriname became a plantation colony, and sugar was one of its most important products. Plantations were established along rivers and coastal areas, where crops could be grown and exported to Europe. But the wealth of this system came at a devastating human cost. The plantation economy depended heavily on enslaved African labor. From the mid-1600s to the early 1800s, roughly 300,000 enslaved Africans were transported to Suriname through the transatlantic slave trade. The colony became profitable for European owners, but it was built on forced labor, violence, displacement, and resistance. This period left a deep legacy that still shapes Suriname's population, culture, and historical memory today. Slavery in Suriname was abolished in 1863. But the end of slavery did not mean an immediate end to plantation labor demands. After abolition, colonial authorities and plantation owners recruited indentured workers, especially from British India and the Dutch East Indies, present-day Indonesia. These workers arrived under contracts that promised wages and eventual freedom of movement, but the conditions were often harsh and unequal. Over time, many descendants of these workers remained in Suriname, adding new languages, religions, foods, and traditions to the country. This is one reason Suriname became one of the most ethnically and religiously diverse societies in the Americas, with roots stretching across Africa, Asia, Europe, and the indigenous Americas. Suriname's modern political path was shaped by its relationship with the Netherlands. In 1954, it became a constituent country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, gaining internal autonomy while remaining tied to the Dutch state. Full independence came on November 25, 1975 after negotiations between Surinamese and Dutch leaders. Independence marked a major turning point. Suriname was now responsible for its own foreign policy, institutions, and national development. Yet the break was not total. Suriname continues to maintain close diplomatic, economic, and cultural ties with the Netherlands. Many Surinamese families have connections across both countries, and the Dutch influence remains visible in law, education, media, administration, and everyday language. One of Suriname's most distinctive features is language. It is the only independent country outside Europe where Dutch is the official and prevailing language of government, business, media, and education. Around 60% of the population speaks Dutch as a native language, making it central to national life. But Suriname is not linguistically simple. Sranan-Tongo, an English-based Creole language, is widely used as a lingua franca across communities. English is also widely spoken and understood, partly because of Suriname's Caribbean connections and global media exposure. The result is a multilingual society where language reflects history, Dutch colonial rule, African and Asian heritage, Caribbean exchange, and local identity all exist side by side. Suriname's diversity goes far beyond language. Most Surinamese are descendants of enslaved Africans brought by Europeans, indentured laborers brought from Asia, indigenous peoples, and later communities shaped by migration and intermarriage. No single ethnic group forms a majority, which makes Suriname different from many nation-states built around one dominant identity. The religious landscape is also unusually varied. Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, indigenous traditions, and other beliefs all have visible roles in public life. Proportionally, Suriname's Muslim and Hindu populations are among the largest in the Americas. This diversity is not just a statistic, it shapes holidays, neighborhoods, cuisine, music, family histories, political alliances, and the way Surinamese people define belonging. Paramaribo, the capital and largest city, is the center of Suriname's political, cultural, and economic life. About half of the country's population lives in or around the capital, making it the main stage on which national identity is expressed. Paramaribo reflects Suriname's layered history, Dutch colonial architecture, Caribbean rhythms, Asian influences, religious diversity, and riverfront trade all meet in one urban space. Because the rest of the country is so sparsely populated, the capital has an outsized role. Decisions made there affect distant forest communities, coastal towns, mining regions, and international relations. To understand Suriname, you have to understand Paramaribo as both a city and a symbol of national concentration. Suriname is considered a developing country, but it has a high level of human development compared with many states in similar economic categories. Its economy depends heavily on natural resources, especially bauxite, gold, petroleum, and agricultural products. Bauxite, the ore used to make aluminum, has historically been important, while gold and oil continue to shape economic debates and development plans. Natural wealth offers opportunities, export revenue, infrastructure investment, and government income. But it also brings risks, including dependence on commodity prices, environmental damage, and unequal distribution of benefits. In a country where rainforest covers most of the land, economic growth and environmental protection are deeply connected questions. Suriname's rainforest is not just empty space on a map. It is home to ecosystems, rivers, biodiversity, indigenous communities, and maroon communities descended from Africans who escaped slavery and built independent societies in the interior. The forest gives Suriname global environmental significance, especially as many countries struggle with deforestation and climate change. At the same time, the interior is tied to difficult policy choices. Mining can bring income but also pollution and land disputes. Conservation can protect ecosystems but must respect the rights and needs of people who live there. Suriname's unusually high forest cover makes it a potential environmental leader, but also places pressure on the country to manage development carefully. Internationally, Suriname occupies a unique position. Geographically, it is in South America, culturally and politically, it often looks toward the Caribbean. It is a member of CARICOM, the Caribbean Community, as well as the United Nations, the Organization of American States, and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. These memberships reflect the country's mixed identity, South American land, Caribbean ties, Dutch-speaking institutions, religious diversity, and global diplomatic connections. Suriname may be small in population and territory, but it challenges simple categories. It is a rainforest nation, a former Dutch colony, a multilingual society, and one of the most diverse countries in the Americas. Its story shows how geography, empire, migration, and culture can create a nation unlike any other. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.